This is Jesus. I'm sorry you cannot see my camera, but you can see Victoria and you can see Ben. Camera's not working right now. First of all, I wanted to thank you for being here, everybody. And I mean, due to all the situations that are going on throughout the state, we understand.
Yes.
Sorry.
Sorry, Jesus, your audio is a little wonky. Can you do something?
Yes, I'm gonna
Okay.
try to do something.
Thanks.
uh, Let me see if it works better if I call. Um, just 1 second. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I don't know if you can hear me better.
That's better.
Okay. All right. So let's try it like this then. Again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for making the effort to be here. We understand that a lot of you couldn't join us and will later listen to this recording. We received some emails asking, I mean, if we were going to cancel the webinar, and yeah, I mean, the thought crossed to my mind. The only reason why we didn't do it is one, because, well, while we appreciate or encourage everybody to join us, well, to have this webinars, this information sessions, we understand the situations outside of our reach. And in this particular case, we know that there's a lot of new changes that are going to come and affect everybody in the COC. And we needed time to bring this information to you guys. So again, thanks everybody that is here listening to this. If you are listening to this in the recording, well, I mean, thank you for listening in the recording as well. The important thing is that the information gets to you guys. It doesn't matter if you're here right now or if you're listening later, but the reason is, I mean, and you will know as we go through the subsequent slides why we couldn't postpone or cancel this session, this particular session. So if without that, or with that out of the way, I guess we can move to the first part. I'm going to pass the microphone, I guess, to Ben.
Well, yeah, hi. Thanks for everyone for showing up. We're going to, we have a brief slideshow here, a demo with Victoria in a little bit, and we're just gonna start off the webinar with the agenda. Cool. So like Jesus was saying, we have new standards coming in, and we know that our state is in a rough situation with Hurricane Harvey and all those sorts of things. We want to be sensitive to that and wish everyone out there, you know, everything we can in serving those who need. But the standards are coming. This is a nationwide thing. It's not going to be put on hold for us just because we're in a state of emergency. These are still coming, and we're going to talk about some of the things to look forward in that. We have training updates coming up. Victoria's going to speak on the training situation and some things that she's been doing on the litmus side. There's some cool things going on over there. Finally, UDQ with me. I know you guys are all so excited to hear about UDQ some more, but that's there's some changes, there's some rehash, there's some things that we discovered in looking through these new reports that I think will be helpful for us to cover in a group session. So let's get through here. First off, standards are coming. Brace yourselves. There is a lot going on with our new standards, and all of that's going to be happening in the month of September. Looking forward to October, and that's when that switch is going to change. First off, this month we will be doing a lot of prep on our end, on the back end, to make sure that our forms and everything will transition correctly. It's a lot of back end information that you guys probably don't even care about, but we will be doing our adjustments to make sure this transition is as smooth as possible. We will be receiving a new report that should help us identify any sort of gaps in our information that may be coming through as we transition into October when those new standards take place. So look for emails from us. We have yet to get our hands on that report, is yet to be released to us. It could be something that you might want to run on your end, or it could be something that we run entirely on our end. We'll just let you know. We'll be in open communication as much as possible about all of that kind of stuff. Finally, the training database through September is going to be changed. They're rolling out these updates, and so if you have people who are being trained, if you have people who are in the training database, it might start to look a little differently from what the production database does, what we are in all the time. Essentially, what that will do is allow us to start getting our hands on the new standards and understand how that's going to affect our live data, what's really going on. All of that really takes place on September 30th. That's a major day. It's a Saturday. So one thing to keep in mind is if you are in the database on Saturdays regularly, maybe take a break that day. It's hard for us to really know when exactly the shift will happen on the 30th. However, it will happen on the 30th. One thing to keep in mind is that Ecovia is run by people, and those people work 9 to 5 Mountain Time or so. And so this isn't one of those things where it's going to be like midnight, Saturday night. That's going to be something that actual people are working on throughout the day. Ecovia manages many databases, not just ours. So as those changes get rolled out, I can't really say whether it's going to be in the morning or the afternoon when they get to our database, but that sync will happen. There won't be any other syncs for September. We're in a no sync month as Ecovia gets our systems ready for the standards coming on October 1st. So we're just kind of in a holding pattern as far as that goes until the 30th when that comes out, and all September we'll be working our best to clean things up. Personally, I've been working on a lot of households. That's going to be a big change to look forward to in our reporting. So if there's any sort of those issues in family records, definitely reach out to us and let us know any inconsistencies you're seeing. Another update we were informed of yesterday in the Sound Burst webinar, Cloudburst, I don't remember what it's called. Cloudburst?
It's Cloudburst.
Cloudburst, yeah, cool. There is a new caper coming out. So anyone who has worked with me on caper stuff, we will no longer be doing the eCart tool. That is gone. It will be gone. We will then be using Sage. So before you would have the export. I don't expect that to change at all. You'll do the export like you did before. You'll get a zip file and you would have to unzip, remove the data validation, and then use that folder in the eCart reporting tool. That whole eCart reporting tool is just gone. What you'll do is you'll send the zip file into Sage. Now, this is just some of my speculations. I expect that you would still get a data validation CSV through this export. So essentially what your steps would probably be is to download a zip file, unzip it, remove the data validation file so you have it to work with, rezip it, and then upload it to Sage. I know there's a bit of an extra step there, but that data validation file is critical in searching for any sort of missing information, those sorts of things. One thing to remember is that this change happens on October 1st. So September 30th is a very important day, not only for our data standards, but also for any of our eCart people. How this will go down is if you have to submit any eCart data before October 1st, obviously, you're going to be using the eCart tool because the Sage doesn't roll out until October 1st with that change, that update that's happening on the 30th. If you have a little bit of flexibility in reporting, it may be possible to download your data on like the 29th or the 30th, put it in the eCart tool, and then submit the eCart tool later. However, if you just wait until October 1st, then you'll be going through the Sage submission option, creating that could create some confusion, but just know if you pull the data in October or after, it won't even work with the eCart reporting tool. It'll have to go into Sage, and that's going to be the default moving forward because they're just getting rid of that tool. So if you hate the tool, it's good news. If you hate Sage, it's bad news. Just to give you a quick sneak peek of what that may look like. Say, oh, I just closed it. I had a tab of Sage pulled up, ready to go. Cool. I think it was Sage. Here we go. Oops. This is what Sage looks like. This is when we're working with the APR. So you would essentially choose a file. It's going to be a zipped file, and you upload it. I expect this to look exactly the same, only it'll say test a caper. But this is what Sage looks like. Sage HMIS reporting repository. As far as support goes for you guys, I won't have a login for Sage. And according to the information I gained yesterday, they're not currently offering those for capers. So just keep an eye out for that from your people when those sorts of things get announced, and we'll work together to make sure that you're able to submit to your caper through Sage as much as possible, or as easily as possible. Any sort of corrections, I'll work with you, but you are able to test. So if you're coming into an issue, let me know the date range. I'll try to schedule an export on my end and send it through a test that I assume will be available because I assume it'll work like the APR does. Again, these are Ben's speculations. I think I'm right. I could easily be wrong. So we'll just see how that pans out through the next month going into October and what kind of information we get.
Stay tuned to October to see if Ben's speculations actually pay off.
We'll play part of this recording and like, they're all wrong. I don't think I'm wrong. We just got a question come in. What is Caper and who uses them? It's for ESG people. If you don't know what Caper is and you don't use it, then that whole little spiel probably wasn't for you. If you ever do use or get ESG funds and need to report on those will be for the Caper. Cool. This next slide. Oh, any other questions before I move on? I just saw the one come through. And there'll be questions taken at the end, obviously. So the next slide here is for Victoria.
Okay, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of our training updates. So we now have the HMIS assessments training live in Litmus. If some of you might remember, we had 3 webinars over the past 2 months regarding these assessments in Client Track. And those webinars were mandatory. You know, we wanted at least everyone to show up to at least one. And there were people who missed for various reasons. So this online automated training is mandatory for those that missed those webinars. And the training is going to happen in waves of 50 people each. So I have a list, and it's not in any particular order. So the first 50 are going to get an email today saying, please log on and register for a specific training. In a little bit, I'll demo exactly what those steps look like, so don't worry about that. Everyone is going to have 1 week to complete the training. And that is 7 regular days, not 7 business days. The kicker is that if you do not finish or complete that training within 7 days, then we are going to cut off access to your HMIS account. Now, the caveat to that is we totally understand that this is a difficult time right now. I think like HMIS is probably the last thing on people's minds in Texas right now. So if you have been affected by Harvey, if you are currently working in the relief assistance efforts, get your HMIS administrator to get in touch with us and let us know that situation, because we will be granting you an extension if that is the case. Other than the HMIS assessments training, we have some new training modules for specific project types. The HMIS coordinated entry training is live, as well as the runaway homeless youth training. Both are live in Litmus. One thing that I want to point out for the coordinated entry training, I can really only assign that training to users and communities and agencies that already have a coordinated entry system set up in their communities outside of HMIS. So the way that I like to describe this to people is that HMIS is like the last piece of the puzzle when it comes to coordinated entry. So when you're doing the HMIS coordinated entry training, the expectation is that you already have a system set up outside of HMIS. That basically means that you have been in touch with Sophia and maybe our new system change coordinator Tiffany Hart and working through how to set up your coordinated entry system in your community. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. If you request that coordinated entry training, I'm going to look to see if you already have those steps or that foundation laid out already. So with that being said, I'm going to jump into the demo. It's only going to take about a minute unless there are any questions about anything I've covered.
There was one question.
Yes.
I believe they were asking about the assessments training. Is that required for the monitors or people who are only viewing HMIS? Is that still required for them?
No, but again, we need to get a letter from the HMIS administrator and saying like this person, and obviously like we need to see if that's true, right? This is not necessary for monitors, people that only go there to like look for names. But if you are considered a monitor, and I'm doing air quotes, I'm sorry, you can see my camera. If you're a monitor that actually goes and enters services, or even if you don't do the entire intake, this is also includes you, okay? When we say monitors are exempt from this, is we assume, I have a dog here running around crazy, sorry. When we hear the word monitor, we're just assuming people that just go and see and doesn't enter any information, doesn't enter any data into HMIS. So anybody else, yes, even if you consider yourself a monitor, but if you enter services, you have to take this this training.
Okay, so if there aren't any more questions, I'm going to ask Ben to pass the screen over to me so I can go through that quick demo.
There are, under the staff, there's two named Texas.
Oh.
I think you're the one that muted.
Yeah, okay, there we go.
Cool.
All right, so this is what it's going to look like, or what that email is going to look like. You're going to receive an email. It actually will go out in exactly 1 minute. And it's going to ask you to click on a link to sign up yourself or register for the course yourself. And this is what that self sign up looks like. It's very simple. You'll just put in your name, your email address, and then there's also a code that I have included in that assessments email. And we only have a set number of people who can be in Litmus at one time. That's also one of the reasons why we're doing this in waves of 50 people at a time. But there's only so many times this code can be used. So I'm not going to enter it right now. But once you sign up, you're going to get a separate email. And that email looks like this. There will be a Texas Homeless Network online course invitation. It will say that you have been invited to do an online course at Texas Homeless Network, and it should provide you with a link that should take you directly to the course. So you're going to click on that link, and it's going to take you to your own Litmus homepage. And at this point, you really should just have the one course assigned to you, the Texas Balanced Estate HMIS Assessments Training. You'll click on this course, and it'll bring up the list of assessments and videos. So I know it might kind of look like a lot. We have, let's see, 6 videos, and then 5 assessments to follow up those videos. Off the top of my head, the training itself is maybe an hour long with the videos and assessments combined. Of course, if you have any questions about anything that you see in the videos or any concerns that you see in the assessments themselves, please don't hesitate to get in touch. But once this is completed, I will automatically receive an update letting me know that you have completed that training, and we will update our list of people who actually need to go through the HMIS assessments training, so you'll get a check mark there. Any questions about that process?
I don't know if there were any about the process. We had a specific question about timing in starting to do coordinated entry. If they're in the final stages of doing the coordinated entry plan, is this still something, could they be included in the CE training?
You know, that's a good question. And I think it really depends on how close you are, because one of the things that I would hesitate to do is put you guys in a training when you're not even going to be starting the coordinated entry process in HMIS for another month or so, right? Like I would prefer that the training happen like maybe a week before, the actual HMIS CE process gets started in your community, right? The less time we have between training and actual application, the better, because it's still fresh in your mind. So I can assign you that training if you're in your final stages, but I would also kind of just put an asterisk on there or reserve the right. If we see something that looks a little wonky after that training, we might request that you guys train again. Does that answer that question, or is there a follow-up to that?
I think so. It was a little specific. Yeah, the response thing, yeah, that answered the question.
Okay.
Yeah, because we believe in these trainings. They're not just hoops to jump through. It's to help you really learn, right? Like what's going on. So it makes sense to do them right when you're really ready to launch into the software.
Yeah.
We had one other general.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
one other general training question, but yeah.
Oh no, I was going to say, just like with all of our other training courses, except for the HMIS assessments training, for all the trainings for specific projects like emergency shelter, permanent supportive housing, supportive services, we have a training list or a task list that we ask new users to complete in the training version of our HMIS. And coordinated entry has the exact same thing. So I've created a short list of tasks for users to complete in the training site. So I also want to sort of, just point out that you also want to give yourself some time, right? Not just to complete the videos and assessments, but also to complete the training tasks, because we are going to go through and check to make sure that you are hitting all the points that you need to hit in the training site. And that can take some time.
One last thing that, oh, sorry. I just wanted to add one last thing to this. Because yes, like Victoria said, you're gonna be receiving, or a lot of you are gonna be receiving the email really soon. Maybe you already did. If you received the email by mistake and you're like, "Hey, I was in the training," and actually, I mean, that's also in the text of the email that you're gonna receive. But yes, if you already attended one of the previous one but didn't register because you were in the room with someone else, and just let your HMIS admin let us know. If you don't know who's the HMIS admin in your agency, this is a great time to ask around in your agency. If you're the only user in your agency, well, probably you are the HMIS admin. But it's whoever signed your user agreement. I don't know if you remember that, but if you don't remember, I mean, we might be able to remind you. But it's important for you or for everybody to know who is the HMIS admin in their agency, and that's the person that needs to contact us if you already attended any of these assessment trainings. That was it. Over and out. Thank you.
All right. Any other general training questions?
Looks like you answered the other one in your explanation just a moment ago. So.
Okay. All right. Well, that covers it for my end. Ben, if you want to switch back around.
Yes. Let's see. Make presenter. Cool. I think we're back to the slideshow. Awesome. Okay, so that sorry, I'm just moving a few things around. I have 3 screens and it's just never enough, you know. Moving on from training. Everyone's favorite subject, the UDQ, Universal Data Quality, for anyone who's uninitiated to the joys of this report. We're looking at information that is required to be collected but is missing for whatever reason, or that the reports are having difficulty finding. What happened? We had, in this most recent quarter, there was just a lot of struggling with responses to our emails. A lot of times that's just a simple, hey, got the email, thanks. You can just send the word acknowledged. I'm like, yeah, Star Trek, I'm with you. Make it so. That's cool. So really just communication with us is really critical. So we know that you're getting these emails out. We know that you're running your EDQs, that you're paying attention to these sorts of things. It also helps start conversation about the reports that we're reporting on, making sure that everything on our end is lined up, because people come, people go. There's changes in staff in your organizations, and so communication is always really key. And we didn't have as great of a response as before. We will continue pushing for responses. We will start CCing everyone we can find. Because part of the HMIS agreement is that you'd work with us on those sorts of things. So executive directors, CEOs, we're going to email everyone in CC, and when we email your admins and your users.
And if I jump in?
That's just going to have to start happening. Yeah, Jesus.
Yes, this is something that has been an issue for quite some time, and we have worked with a lot of you guys, and we appreciate, first of all, like everyone was saying, I mean, there's a lot of people that have always show special interest and have help us with the UDQs. I mean, they respond in time, they work with the time, but not everybody is on that same boat. And I can understand sometimes having other responsibilities and leaving this one for last. But I mean, it is important to at least, like Ben is saying, to let us know, hey, we received this. We're gonna work on it. I mean, in a week or something, just so we know that somebody is actually paying attention to this. Because then that's the issue. Like, it's not that we are trying to be more enforced or more disciplinary. I mean, that's not the intent at all. But we have been asked a lot more from our COC, and they are very serious about this. I mean, when they come to us and they ask, I mean, who's responding, who's not responding, and I know that there's going to be competition coming soon. I know that they're working on applications and all of that, and this information, it's actually going to serve them. I mean, they're going to see like who is responsive, who actually takes care of their data, who actually doesn't care. And again, I mean, I don't mean to say that some of you guys don't care. I'm just saying that this is probably not the utmost priority that it should be. So this is something that is going to have to change. And we were asked with this task, okay, if somebody in an agency doesn't respond, we're gonna have to like come back and yes, email everybody, because this is something that and a lot of you guys here probably didn't sign the application, but in the application in the policies and procedures, and also the data quality plan, it states that this is a responsibility that the agencies have to comply. It's taking care of the data. It doesn't matter what kind of funding you guys are receiving. I mean, somebody might be saying, well, we don't receive federal funding. It doesn't really matter. I mean, because once you guys start participating with HMIS, that's one of the responsibilities. You have to help us with the data. And so again, you guys are going to receive some emails if you never heard from us. And it can be, it is possible that maybe those emails were going to the wrong person. And I mean, it has happened. We understand that. But we need to address it, and we need to know if the person that we're sending them, well, one, still work there, and if it does, this person is still responsible for this, or should we send them somewhere else? So again, just letting you know in advance, if you didn't reply to any of our UDQ emails, you're probably going to receive one that is going to be addressed to a lot more people. It was not our idea, but we're trying to make sure that everybody is on the same page on this. So thank you for understanding. Ben, you may continue.
Thanks. No, I mean, yeah, obviously, or maybe not so obviously, but I think a lot of us on the HMIS team aren't necessarily the if we talk about like carrot versus stick, I don't think any of us really enjoy stick. This is probably like at least not exactly my favorite part of the job. But the reality is that it's important, and the other reality is like I'm pretty small potatoes, guys. I'm not here to in a very real way, you know, my opinion on what's happening with the data and what I'm finding doesn't really matter. I'm view myself more as like maybe more like a coach. Like, hey, we got to get this done. This is the practice for the big game of the AHAR or the SPM or whatever. So a lot of these UDQs really is just like getting prepared for the bigger things, but it's being prepared in these individual moments. It's also paying attention to what's happening in the UDQ. Again, I know this isn't what's, I'm sure you guys didn't get into homelessness services to pour over UDQ reports. However, here we are. We did struggle with fixes. There were a number of organizations who would respond that we got them fixed, and that's not true. So there's obviously going to be some pushback. But one of the things I look for right off the bat in a response of, oh, we got this fixed, first thing I check for is client location. There's only one response or one option in client location. I know many of you are thinking, oh, it's required. I shouldn't even have to worry about this. I know things slip through cracks. A lot of times missing data happens, and I'm not even sure how you guys do it. It's just part of the system. If you go in, you leave, you come back, you know, quality connections, who can say? But missing location happens. And so if I get an email saying, hey, we fixed everything, and I run the report, and the first thing I see is that there's missing client location. As you can see, it's under Q3, client location. There's 2 of them in this example. That's an easy fix. That's just going to those client IDs and selecting the Texas Balance of State client location. That's not even a situation of, oh, I can't ask their social security number because they left the system. Well, doesn't matter. There's only one option. Super easy. Something that can be done, no problem. Another easy fix is the annual assessment. Every year that a client is in your program, they have to have an annual assessment 30 days before or after the enrollment date. So there's a little bit of flexibility, but again, it's an easy fix when I get an email saying we fixed everything, and then I run it and I see there's missing annual assessments. There's one of 3 options here. You either need to create the assessment because there just wasn't one for that year. The deadline was missed. That happens. We just need to do some back data entry and make sure that a annual assessment is created and done for those clients. You either need, or you could have to exit the client. There's a good chance that they had left the program and just fell through the cracks. We're going to come back to this idea a lot, but you got to make sure that you're just on top of who's in your enrollments, especially for September, going into October with the data updates. Now is a very, very important time to stay on top of your client exits, because if they bleed over into October, the new data standards apply to them because they're still in the system. So the expectation would be that any sort of changes to the elements, we would need to work with the client and make sure that we're getting all that new stuff filled out. There's really not a whole lot of new stuff, but just really be on top of it, especially for this month, especially as things transition to a new year, all those sorts of things. Finally, the other option for an annual assessment would be the date range. There's that window, 30 days before or after. If an annual assessment was made outside of that window, maybe there was some backdata entry going on and we just didn't adjust the date because it defaulted to that day's date. You know, that sort of thing happens. But again, those are really pretty straightforward fixes. It either needs to be made, the client needs to be exited, or one has been made and we need to make an adjustment. One thing that we've found as we've been going through this new UDQ, it is a little bit more robust. It is paying attention to things that the old UDQ did not catch. So this is what I call a tricky fix, but still super easy in a sense, because again, this isn't something like a missing social security number where the client has left and we can't go get the social security number. This is just an issue of data entry and precision in said data entry. So I just want to walk through this enrollment really quickly. There is an emergency shelter here for THN with an enroll date of 6/1/2016, right? And then we go to the assessment section and we see a master entry assessment for 6/1/2016. Everything's good. But then we go to the financial assessment for the entry, and we see that the assessment date is 5/15/2016. And Victoria, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is covered in the assessments trainings?
Yes, it is covered in the trainings.
Yeah.
There's a specific section just on
Cool.
dates.
Just because we found this was such a big problem in our database. This has come forward in our UDQ, and I've worked with a number of you who've been like, hey, this is saying that the entry financial information is missing, and I go to it and there's something there, whether it's no, yes, whatever the case may be. The problem has typically been with the dates, and while these two dates line up and this one's different, I've seen it where these two dates line up and this one's different, or all three are different dates. It just needs to be consistent. Whatever that date is, you may need to go back and adjust those dates. If you're having trouble adjusting the dates, sometimes the master assessment, this one can be a little difficult because you have to go through the enrollment workflow and just update everything and make sure they're all correct. So if you're having any trouble adjusting the dates, getting that to stick, let us know. But again, it's an easy fix. It's an easy thing to miss. It's one of those things that can be updated without, having to go back and find a client that may have left the program, those sorts of things. But it does get caught by our reports. And it is important, especially moving forward and looking at the AHAR is coming up. And I assume this is going to be a big deal with AHAR updates for 2018, looking far ahead, not this year, but next year. These reporting parameters are only going to become more stringent, and this isn't going to go away. Reports are being more robust. This is just something we all need to keep a little closer eye on as we do our data entry. Any questions about the dates or these fixes? I haven't seen any.
No, I just wanted to add a little to, you pretty much said everything. But yes, if your agency have clients that need to be exited or that are no longer there, you might as well start doing that now before October. because then it's going to be a little more tricky. I mean, we'll have to get more information. So if those clients are no longer there, they shouldn't be there. Just start exiting clients. That's like the best thing that you can start doing now. If they're no longer there, don't exit clients that are still there, obviously. That's it.
Yeah, and so, I mean, Jesus nailed it. We just gotta make sure that we're exiting all of those. And looking to the future of the UDQ and what we do working together to help keep our data as clean as possible. Remember, this is all to an eye of our major reporting periods. So I think historically, there have been 1 or 2 years where the AHAR came upon us and you would receive an email from us with this giant list of clients that need to be fixed. Hopefully that won't have to happen because we've been keeping up on it all year. When is the next UDQ? Well, the next one, it seems like we just did it through July. We have a couple months here, and then really the next one's going to be in October. Part of that is because we do want to keep on any sort of clients that should be exited as they transition into the new standards at the end of September into October. So it's a really crucial time to get that done. And the idea is, again, it's looking at like the AHAR. That's our next big one, and that's the fiscal year, October to September. You probably noticed that in our emails as we run the UDQs. We're doing it from October 1st. So that's something that we'll be keeping in mind here as we get closer to the AHAR. And so the UDQs are really going to focus on the fiscal year we've been doing. So our data will be as clean as possible and we'll submit to all the shells. However, the way we're doing this is going to be a little different for the UDQ. Who's running it? It's going to be our admins. It's going to be our users. This year, it has been something that I've been doing. I've been running the reports and organizing an email and sending it to everyone of like, hey, here's your stuff. The reality is that's all stuff that you're able to run on your end. I'm not doing anything special over here from like an admin perspective. So I think a lot of this has been the hope that, we're doing this together and then we're slowly, pushing you out of the nest. So hopefully you feel like you've had some experience with the UDQs and looking through them to fix some errors that may be coming up. And hopefully you're confident enough that you could run a UDQ in the export and go through some of those issues on your own. If not, by all means, you're not completely on your own. We'll send an email to remind you, say, hey, be sure to run your UDQs, but essentially what this is going to look like is a little bit more like an APR style of submission. So if you have to submit like an APR to someone else here, now it's just like, hey, you email us at hmis@thm.org your UDQ. Not the client level information, not the export, but when you go and just run a UDQ report, and we can swing this over. If we're looking at HMIS reports, HUD HMIS reports, APR v5.1, HUD data quality report. I should have run this already, but it's fine. So I didn't change the date range, but it would have been for the fiscal year, October to September. And we'll send you an email on the date range here, but essentially what we'd want is just a copy of the PDF of this report you've generated. You send that our way, and that's kind of like your submission, like, hey, this is as clean as our data can get. This is what we're submitting. And then frankly, I'll look over it and probably run an export and dig into your data with you and see if there's anything more we can do to kind of adjust here. Sorry, it's taking a second to load. It's a small test thing, but here we go. So this is what you would send us, just this PDF here. So we'd be able to see the programs you ran it on, the reporting period, and we'd be able to take a look and see like, okay, so what we just went over, like you say your data is done and as clean as it can be, but you're submitting 2 missing client locations. That's easy stuff, and I'll push back on you. We'll try to talk through who's missing it and what we can do to get it fixed. Because that could be a situation with dates. It could be that the entry assessment was never created, whatever. We'll work together to figure that out. But that's all for October. So just keeping that in mind as we look forward to the next round of UDQs. I won't be sending you a packet. I'll be sending you an email blast with a deadline of a few weeks. And I know that there's a number of us. I am included. I wish that I could get that export of all the information here quickly, like you guys wish you could as well. I know the export takes some time, but again, we do give you those a couple of weeks so that you can, you get the email saying, oh, we got to run UDQs. Send me a word, acknowledged. Cool, I'll write it down. And then you kind of forget about it for a couple days because you have other stuff going on, put a little calendar reminder. 2 days, you run the export. 2 days later, you start looking through it. You don't have to do it all in one afternoon. You can take your time with it, and that's a good thing. I see we've had a couple questions come in. Well, let's see. There's a question about exiting your clients from the program. That should be, do we have a YouTube video on that, Victoria? Off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I don't know if we have a YouTube video on that, but if we don't, I can make one, so.
It's just going to the blue action button and doing the exit workflow for an enrollment. So nothing fancy with the UDQ there, getting things ready for the October changes, just a standard exit.
And just to answer Wendy's question, yes, we're going to have some sort of, yeah, I guess we can call it a training because we want to make sure that you guys know what you're doing, obviously. You will feel better, we will feel better. We just want to make sure that one of our priorities, I guess, for this upcoming year is for the agencies to take more control on their data, to actually take pride on their data, to actually work on fixing your data and keeping it the way that it should be. So it doesn't mean that we're going to move away. I've been saying for a long time, I mean, my job, I mean, really, it's to make sure you guys know how to do all of this stuff, and then you guys can move me away, and then you guys can handle. But yeah, till we're there, we'll work together, and yes, we'll make sure that everybody knows what needs to be done. I mean, there's probably going to be another webinar just for that. We'll keep you in touch.
And I mean, I feel like we've done a few webinars. I feel like this is something I'm almost afraid that we're just beating a dead horse, but as long as there's questions, we'll keep hitting it. I also know that we have, let me load them real quick. No, block. We do have a whole playlist on YouTube, and I'm just pulling it up real quick. So tons of videos here. If you're not familiar with our YouTube client track tutorials, it's with Texas Homeless Network. We have a ton of stuff up here. All of our webinars are on a different playlist called HMIS webinars. But as far as the playlist of quick tutorials go, a lot of these are less than I think, okay, 3 minutes seems a little long. There's a 6th one, but that's for like a whole caper thing. If you go to the bottom though, we have a couple of videos here about the APR 5.1. We have the export here for the UDQ that goes along with it. So we definitely have some materials up already, and we will be probably compiling a lot of this together again once we start looking at the UDQ in October. Another real quick thing, as far as reporting goes and getting ready for October, this is something we'll definitely hit next webinar towards the end of September. However, another horse I'm just going to keep beating. The clients and programs report for the reports, program reports, clients and programs. Enroll at any point, setting it to a certain month so you can see who's still enrolled. This will always serve as a good net for you. I feel like I've probably brought it up more than once, but definitely be running this on the regular just to keep an idea of who's still enrolled. Because if you are like doing an emergency shelter and you're like, oh, someone's been here for like enrolled for 3 months and they left a month ago, by all means, this is a good way to help keep track of that kind of stuff. You'll definitely want to be running this in September just to make sure you're not carrying over clients into October, into the new AHAR year. If there are any additional questions, I mean, we're here. Feel free to always email us at hmis@thn.org.
No more questions. If there's no more questions, I wanted to thank everybody. Oh, wait, there is one question. Yes.
There was one. The idea of a cradle to grave tutorial, yeah, with a table of contents for easy. Oh, you're looking specifically at the playlist. So we had a question coming in about the client track tutorial playlist and the order they're put in. We actually have something that may help. The question is about a table of contents for easy access. That's something Jesus and I talked about a little bit ago, and then we got wrapped up in, I think, SPM's a major report hit, and that project kind of got dropped. Jesus, do you remember the work group I made?
Yes.
For, do you want me to demo that real quick, or do we want to keep that secret? Demo it?
Well, it was not supposed to be a secret. I mean, we've been working on it for a while, but then, yes, reports hit us, and then with new data changes coming, we feel, I mean, I usually don't like to do anything on the month previous because I know that anything I'll do, like, it'll have to be redone. So we were waiting, or I was waiting on seeing how the new features will go, and then we can roll out something like this. But yes, it's something that we have been working on. Ben has made some progress in that area too, and yay.
I need to keep it updated. It's one of those things that, especially now with the sync, we probably won't be able to unveil this until October because we'll have to make sure the training site is up to date and all the changes that are coming with that. But this was something Jesus asked me to put together earlier this summer. I mean, it's still in beta. Like, this isn't real in a lot of ways, but there's essentially another work group that I made. This is my test. I do all sorts of crazy stuff in here, but it'd be like next to clients, and there would be a table of contents. And essentially what this would do is break it down different ways. So you have some basic training, intermediate, advanced. You see them broken down on the welcome page. If this still works, they'll give you a hyperlink. And basically this is showing all of the YouTube videos embedded in client track, so you wouldn't have to leave and go to YouTube. You'd have them available just in a different work space. And, you know, they'd be organized like this. I think one of the reasons we haven't really pushed this super hard is trying to figure out the organization, what makes most sense. But this is potentially something you could see towards the end of October, maybe early November, just because we can't do any updates now with the September on the way, and then with all this changes and standards, we're gonna get pretty busy over here as well. So
yeah, this is something.
Yeah, this is something.
Yay.
Yeah.
Will there be a reminder for updates on closed case?
Yeah, I mean, I assume we'll talk about that next webinar, because that'll be towards the end of September.
Actually, okay, this is the part that I forgot to say, because and I think I just discussed this with Victoria and Cameron. But yes, since the new updates are coming in September, and the new, or not the new, sorry, the training site will look like the new, like the live site should look in October, we're gonna take the second week of October to actually go over and have a series of webinars where we detail like everything, like, okay, this is how it's gonna go, this is how it looks, and you can use it as a refresher. You can use, I mean, it'll be mandatory because we want to make sure that everybody sees it at least in action before October starts. So yes, that is actually, it's going to happen. That's going to be the reminder. We're going to send an email at the, I guess, well, I was going to say at the beginning of the month is tomorrow. And it'll be like the entire week. We're just going to dedicate an hour and a half to go over the database. You don't have to attend the 5 days. You can choose just one day, but it'll be mandatory for everybody to actually go and take the webinar. I know that we have some shelter workers that don't follow our same schedule. So for them, we will work on having a recording session because again, they're probably going to be the first one to see it once it goes live, as Ben was saying at the beginning of this presentation. It's the change is going to happen during the weekend. We're not going to be here, but during that whole week that we're going to be discussing, or it's going to be like a demo of the website, I guess. You can ask questions. We can go over. We can do the whole thing from starting to end. Enter a client, exit a client, all of that stuff, just so you see everything in action. And again, it's going to be mandatory. The email hasn't gone out. It's good. I don't like to send too many emails at the same time, since we're going to send some emails today. I rather space them out. So that's why you haven't heard anything about that either. But yes, that's going to be your reminder for those updates that are coming. Bring a question.
It was asking about
services.
Yeah.
I guess she means categories. If there's a service code that it's not there, and your agency is providing that service and you want to track that service, yeah, just ask your HMIS admin to get in touch with us, and we can add any services. That was my spiel, guys. Been pretty efficient today. Yeah. Nothing else. Okay, well, I guess there's no more questions. If that's the case, I want to thank each and every one of you that took the time to be with us today. Some of you have been working maybe longer hours, maybe have been dealing with all this crisis that it's affected, I guess, a little more than half in Texas. So thank you for taking the time, and we will keep you informed. Please reach out if there's anything that you need assistance with. Reach out to us. You know how to reach us. Everybody, we receive the emails every time. But yeah, if you need any assistance, any help, don't hesitate. We want to make sure that we're there for you as well. That's it. Victoria,
Okay,
Ben.
bye.
Thank you for coming, guys.
Thanks
We'll
for
see you
coming.
soon.